الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. القول مني في جميع الأشياء قول آل محمد فيما أسروا وما أعلنوا وفيما بلغني عنهم وفيما لم يبلغني. أما بعد، فقد قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وجعلنا منهم أئمة يهدون بأمرنا لما صبروا وكانوا بآياتنا يوقنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. In these days we are commemorating the martyrdom of the 10th Imam, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Al-Hadi means the guider. There is the guided and there is the guider. The one who gives the guidance is known as a Hadi. As in the Quran, when it speaks to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it says, "Innama anta mundhir wa likulli qawmin had," that you are a warner, and for every tribe, for every people is their guider. And the translation of this verse is that the Mundhir is the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Had is Ali ibn Abi Talib, or the role between prophethood and imamate. Now, as we know, the names of the Imams doesn't mean that this is something specific to them. So it doesn't mean that Imam al-Hadi is the only Imam who guides and the other Imams do not guide. Similarly, as Imam al-Sadiq, the truthful one, doesn't mean that he's the only truthful one and the other Imams are not the truthful one. The reason behind these names, of course we know that this isn't their actual names. Imam al-Hadi's name is Ali ibn Muhammad. That's his name. But the reason for these names is that the situations that they go through in their time bring forth certain attributes, bring forth certain stances, and as a result, the name is attributed to them. Like you have Imam Zayn al-Abidin, the best of worshippers. The time that he was in, he used worship to spread the knowledge of Ahl al-Bayt. Imam al-Sadiq, who was called the truthful one because during the time there were many sects that were being born, and the only truthful one was the one that Imam al-Sadiq was teaching. That's why he was called al-Sadiq. Imam al-Baqir was called Imam al-Baqir because he would dig up knowledge like none other. He would dissect knowledge like none other. So these are names because there were specific instances during that time that gave rise to that name. Imam al-Hadi, the reason why he was given that name, when we look at the time, there are certain things that come forth. Of them are, there was a lot of ideological degradation at the time. A lot of misinformation at the time, and a lot of people were believing the wrong thing in Islam at the time. And Imam al-Hadi had many roles to protect the Shia from these ideological degradations. Now, when we look at the reasons why, the main reason at the top is the political motivations. As we know, during the time of Imam al-Hadi is who? The Abbasids. Before the Abbasids was who? The Umayyad Empire. After that was the Abbasids. Imam al-Hadi was during the time of al-Mutawakkil. Al-Mutawakkil, he was known as one of the worst dictators ever. This man was known for him drinking alcohol. And by the way he died was he died while drinking. His own son killed him to the point where they chopped him up and pieces of his flesh was falling into the cups of wine. That's al-Mutawakkil, the Khalifa of the Muslims, the chosen one. They call him Nasir al-Sunnah. The other people, they call him the Nasir al-Sunnah. And he was known as an alcohol drinker. Al-Mutawakkil, and even the Abbasids, they would look for any ideology that supports their own legitimacy, because they know very well that the throne that they sit on, the rulership that they hold, is not theirs. They know that it belongs to Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So they will look for anything in order to solidify their position and weaken the position of the Ahl al-Bayt. For example, a debated idea during the time was free will or determinism. Has Allah given us free will, or is everything that we do decreed by Allah and there's no way out of it? Now, as an Abbasid ruler, put yourself in his shoes. Which one would you pick? Or which one would you decide to let the people follow, or push for, or advocate for, give more money to the scholars that push that idea? It's of course going to be determinism. Why? Because when you push for that idea, you're going to tell the people, look, your own scholars say that we do not have free will. Whatever happens, happens because Allah wanted it to. So Allah wanted me to be the Khalifa, so you have no right to object. So if I want to kill, butcher, maim, whoever I want, you have no right to object. Because Allah has set this for us and there's no way around it. So that's one of the examples. So the Khalifa would pay the people or the scholars or the narrators of a certain idea and tell them, you make this more popular. And anyone who goes against you will silence them. And we'll look at some of the examples that happened during that time. And that is one of the reasons behind that. And when you look at Al-Mutawakkil, not only was he one of the worst, he is the one who destroyed the grave of Imam al-Hussein. This cursed man was one of the first people to destroy the grave of Imam al-Hussein and to kill anyone who goes to visit Imam al-Hussein, and destroyed the homes of the people that lived around Karbala at the time. He destroyed their houses and banned anyone from visiting Imam al-Hussein. To look at who you were up against, or the Imam al-Hadi was up against during that time. A real tyrant by the highest meaning. Now, let's look at some of the examples of these deviations during that time. And then after that, we'll look at what Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam done. The first one was Al-Mutawakkil focused on the hatred of the Ahl al-Bayt. He reintroduced, after a long time, the cursing of Amir al-Mu'mineen on the pulpits. During the time of Al-Mutawakkil, it became a public thing. Everyone was cursing Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam during that time. And anyone who would want to share the merits of the Ahl al-Bayt was to be punished, whether they were Shia or not. Mutawakkil had one of his writers, one of his own writers, so Sunni in that sense. He narrated a hadith from the Ahl al-Bayt, or about the Ahl al-Bayt, that's in their books. It's not like the guy is a Shi'i person. The hadith was that the Holy Prophet says, whoever loves me and loves Al-Hasan wal-Hussein and Fatima and Ali ibn Abi Talib, then he will go to Jannah. This man just narrated the hadith because his asatidha, his teachers taught him this hadith. Al-Mutawakkil had that man whipped 1,000 times because he shared a narration about the merits of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. He shared a narration. And then you have Ibn al-Sikit, one of the companions of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, a very brave and knowledgeable person. Ibn al-Sikit was with Al-Mutawakkil. Al-Mutawakkil asked him, he said, "O Ibn al-Sikit, who is better, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein or my own sons?" Al-Mutawakkil had 2 sons. So he was like, who's better, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein or my own sons? Ibn al-Sikit couldn't keep quiet. He said, by Allah, the sandals of Qambar, the slave of Ali ibn Abi Talib, is better than you and your sons. He said that to him and he did not hesitate. But because of that, Al-Mutawakkil had him killed. And they extracted Ibn al-Sikit's tongue from the back of his throat. They dug a hole through the back of his head and they extracted his tongue from the back. Because he stood up to this person, because he stood up to the Ahl al-Bayt, for the Ahl al-Bayt, he was punished. So he reintroduced the idea of the hatred of the Ahl al-Bayt. And it's no wonder. You have many of the books of the other schools of thought, they do not mention narrations from Imam al-Sadiq, or Imam al-Kadhim, or Imam al-Reda, or Imam al-Hadi. Do you know why? Do you know when Sahih al-Bukhari was written? During the time of Al-Mutawakkil. Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari lived during the time of Al-Mutawakkil. And his book was only going to be published if Al-Mutawakkil approved. No wonder why. When they asked him, why do you not narrate anything about Imam al-Sadiq? He left we door, as we would say. He would say, oh, I had some doubt in my heart, something. No, he lived during the time of Al-Mutawakkil. So it makes sense. It makes sense when the books that are so revered now were written during the time of such people. Al-Mutawakkil, who if anything was against his idea, he would be punished by death. So no wonder they don't narrate from our Imams. Because sometimes people ask, why do they not narrate from us? And want to look who the rulers were. The pen belongs to the victor. History belongs to the victor. On a physical sense, of course. So that was one idea, the hatred against the Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam. And then you have another example is the strong presence of the idea that Allah has a body. This was really solidified during that time and really was focused on by al-Mutawakkil to ensure the ideology of the Muslims was degraded. I'll give you some of the examples. They have, and the narrations are still present until this day. Like I said, Sahih al-Bukhari was written during that time and many other books. There is a hadith that Allah has legs. He puts his leg into Jahannam. There is a hadith that Allah runs or he jogs. There is a hadith that when Allah sits on the throne starts to squeak. I don't know, it doesn't have WD-40 at the time, I don't know. But every time Allah would sit on the throne, it would start to squeak. That Allah would sit on the throne and he would fill up the throne except for 4 fingers width of space. And in that 4 fingers width of space, he would sit down, the Holy Prophet. Sitting with your leg above the other is haram for them. You know why? Because apparently that's how Allah sits. Apparently. And they are hadith. It's funny. Even Siri's laughing. It's funny. But it's true. These ahadith were being spread at that time. You can't sit a certain way. Why? Because Allah sits that way. Allah sits that way. But everyone started believing it. This idea that Allah had a body was something that was so solidified during that time because of al-Mutawakkil. And al-Dhahabi narrates in his book Siyar A'lam al-Nubala that al-Mutawakkil gathered the narrators and the scholars in Samarra and he gave them money and he told them to narrate about this. Spread this idea that Allah has a body, Allah has legs, Allah comes down on a donkey on every Thursday night. This is their narrations. And there's one that will surprise you even more than this. Get ready for this. There's a hadith that says, when Allah wanted to create himself, when Allah wanted to create himself, he created a horse. He created a horse. And then he made this horse run. It gets better. He made this horse run. And then after the horse ran, the horse started to sweat. And from the sweat of that horse, Allah created himself. There you go. It's funny, but it's true. This is how they describe Allah's creation. So no wonder why there's all these deviated ideologies. No wonder why when the non-Muslims come to us and say, look, your books are wrong. You guys talk about the Trinity and how can you guys believe that God will become a man, but in your books, you have all these descriptions of your God and that he sits leg above one leg and that he was created from the sweat of a horse. And that's the problem. See, the other schools of thought, they can't defend this. Alhamdulillah, thanks to the blessing of the Ahlul Bayt, thanks to the blessing and the sacrifice of people like Ibn Sikit, of people like those who protected the true ideology of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, we do not have these narrations. And the thing about us, we have logic, we have intellect. We don't believe something sahih just because someone said so. So even if we do have some sort of narration that's even close to this, we can very easily analyze it, and when we see that many other narrations go against it, we won't believe in it. The only thing that's concrete is the book of Allah for the Shia. Nothing else in our books is sahih. We analyze it, we use our intellect, we compare it to the Quran. For them, there's no such thing. There is no such thing. You listen to what we tell you, do what you're told. If we say that Allah has a body, khalas, that's what you believe now. There is no way around it. But that's not what the Ahlul Bayt taught us. That's not what the Ahlul Bayt made us focus on. So that's in one sense. And it's not just Tawheed, because you see a lot of the problems, they say that, oh, the Shia, Mushrikeen, we are the ones with Tawheed. Really? Your God sits down on the throne, He squeaks, that's your tawheed. I don't know what tawheed is then, if that's your belief in tawheed. Even worse, prophethood. Their idea of prophethood is even worse. You've all heard of this, or I don't know if you have, but they have in their books that when Malik al-Maut wanted to come and take Musa's life, Musa rejected. And what Musa done is he punched Malik al-Maut in the face. He punched him, gave him an uppercut. Like he didn't want to die. That's in their books. This is a hadith that they have. And in one hadith, I'm not even going to mention the entirety of it, but a certain part of it says that Musa put his clothes on a rock and the rock ran away with Musa's clothes. And then Musa started chasing the clothes and the rock. And it says, Thawbi ya hajar. Well, go look at the narration. Right, Thawbi ya hajar. The narration of Thawbi ya hajar, you'll find it. Or they believe that Dawood, I don't know if I can say this one. Yeah. Very bad stuff. And this is their idea of prophethood. So when they tell us that, oh, the Shia, you know, they have no tawheed, they're mushrikeen, they will, Habibi, your tawheed is cooked. Your nubuwah is cooked. Your imamah is non-existent. I don't know what to do. Your ma'ad is even cooked. You believe that on the day of judgment, Allah's going to come with golden sandals, with no beard, because apparently Allah can't grow a beard in their narrations, and you're going to see Him. That was the time, during Imam Hadi's time, that was where all of these narrations were being solidified and were being shared by everyone. So look at what Imam al-Hadi had to do to protect the Shia, protect us. Because his sacrifice, his efforts are what protect us right now. Are what allow us right now to laugh about these narrations. Because by Allah, if we didn't have the Imams, we would have believed in this. We would have been believing in all of this, and everything like this would have been solidified for us. If it wasn't for the Ahlul Bayt protecting us from these negative ideas about Islam. And then you have, during that time, a war broke out. So, before Al-Mutawakkil was who? Al-Ma'mun. During the end of Al-Ma'mun's time and the beginning of Al-Mutawakkil's time, there was this big fitna that happened. The fitna was between the Mu'tazila and the people of the Hadith. The Mu'tazila were known for using intellect, logic, you know, not really looking at the narrations. Ahl al-Hadith would only use narrations. No logic, no intellect, only narrations. Big war broke out between these two. People died and everything. The whole idea or the argument was regarding the Quran. Is the Quran a creation or is it eternal like Allah? Because it is the words of Allah. So these two sides fought at it. They would kill each other. The Mu'tazila were linked to Al-Ma'mun's government. The people of the Hadith were against this. Wars broke out. Alaykum as-salam. People fought. People died. And one of the people who was with Ahl al-Hadith and ended up being imprisoned was a man by the name of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He was one of the people of Ahl al-Hadith that were against the Mu'tazila. Ahmad ibn Hanbal went to jail because of his belief. Ahmad ibn Hanbal went to jail. He came out a different man. He came out as a man who, if anyone goes against his idea, they are a kafir. Which was the very early stages of the Salafis. The very early stages of what we now know as ISIS and all these people and what happened recently. These people that if you do not believe in what I believe in, you're a kafir and you deserve to die. Began with Ahmad ibn Hanbal. This man, he had this ideological difference. He went to jail. He came out a different man. He came out a man who was vengeful, who was full of hate. And anyone that was against him was a zindiq, was a kafir. And then after that, his son came. And then his son's student wrote a book. It's called Kitab al-Sunnah. And it's taught in certain seminars of the Salafis. In this book is where the idea of takfir started. That if you are against me, you are a kafir. And then, many years later, Ibn Taymiyyah came and he updated that software again and even worse, to the point where I do not just call you a kafir now, you deserve to die. But it all started during that time. That's why it's important to look at that time. That period is crucial. When you look at extremism now, what started it? What started this idea that if you're against me, you're a kafir and I have to kill you? Where did it start? You look at none other than this time, the fitna of Khalq al-Quran. And that's where Ahmad ibn Hanbal emerged. And after that is where it continues. It needs a whole lecture, this whole series, just to understand where radicalism started in Islam. Because it sure as hell did not start with Ahlul Bayt. And the sectarian wars continued. So it was the Mu'tazila and the people of the Hadith. After that was the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is. Because after that, Ahmad ibn Hanbal came out, created his own little thing. Then he went against the Shafi'is. And then it was the Shafi'is and the Hanafis. Whole list of sectarian wars that happened during that time. So it's important that we look at that period of history. Because we neglect that. And then we get surprised. Why are people like that person who done what he done not too long ago in Bondi? Why did he do what he did? And why is he using Islam? Why? Maybe because we do not look at our history and where these deviant people came from. Because see, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he had a certain ideology. His ideology was anything that is said or done by the Sahaba and the Salaf and the Tabi'een, the Sahaba, the companions, anyone who even sat down, kicked it with the Prophet for 30 minutes, he was a Sahabi, by the way, for them. Anyone who's a Sahabi, anyone who's a Tabi'i, someone who was a student of the Sahaba, and Tabi'i was a student of the Tabi'in, these three generations are the Salaf. And whatever they do, whatever they eat, whatever they say is what goes. To the point where they would bring Ahmad ibn Hanbal certain dishes of food and he wouldn't eat it. They would ask him, why won't you eat this? He would say, because none of the Salaf ate from this food. Turning off the intellect and the aql completely off. Do what you're told. Khalas. And then, like I said, during Al-Mutawakkil's time, pushing for the idea that everything is determined by Allah. We have no control. We have no free will. If Allah decided that the Abbasids should be in government, then we should follow them. And then they change and they alter the understanding of certain verses from the Quran. Malik al-mulk tu'ti al-mulk man tasha. Oh Allah, you are the king and you give the kingdom to whoever you wish. Khalas. If I have the power, that means Allah has given it to me. That means you can't question me. That means if I tell you to go and kill people, you go and kill people. If I tell you to go and bomb people, you go and bomb people. Because I told you so. That is where it started from. This is what their belief is, and it's important to be aware of this because we can know how to fight it. We can know how to not fall into it. Because you ask, how does someone do what that person done? How does that person decide to go and do this heinous crime? Because they were brainwashed. They were taught, do not use your intellect, do not use your aql. Khalas, whatever we tell you to do, you do. You do not question. That is exactly what Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam fought during that time. So now we come to Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Look at all that was around Imam al-Hadi's time. What did Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam do? Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, before he was placed into house arrest in Samarra, he was able to maneuver more freely. So, he would act and teach the people directly through his letters. So, you have that whole argument of free will and determinism. He sent a very long letter to the people of Al-Ahwaz because they were battling with that issue. Do we have free will? Do we not? What's happening? Who do we go to? Go to Imam al-Hadi. Imam al-Hadi sent them a long letter, and we can still access these narrations from Imam al-Hadi. He explained the entirety of that dilemma. It's not free will, it's not determinism, it's the in-between between these two. It's not that Allah has given us complete free will and that Allah is not working anymore. And it's not that Allah has given us no free will and we have no choice in life, but there is a balance. So he done that. Then he also sent many letters to the people of Nishabur, which is now in Iran, regarding the idea of Allah having a body and not, because it was a main spread thing. So think of the Abbasid Empire as the people with what we know now as social media or the media outlets. It was all in the hand of the Abbasids. So when the Shia were hearing this, especially when they do not live next to the Imam, they were very confused. So they would ask the Imam, and the Imam would clarify it from them. That Allah cannot have a body. Allah cannot be compared to a human. Allah cannot have the characteristics of the human. How can He have the same characteristics as His own creation? With that logic, why isn't Allah like the way the ant imagines Allah to be with antennas? Why is it that Allah is the way we are with a leg and a hand? That whole logic falls into place. The Imam taught and he directed and he taught directly. Also, his companions. His companions, such as Ibn al-Sikit. He was a genius in linguistics and fiqh, Ibn al-Sikit. He was a very knowledgeable person. Then you also have Hassan and Hussein ibn Sa'id al-Ahwazi. These two brothers wrote more than 100 books in aqaid and ideology and fiqh. Imam taught them everything they knew. Then you also have Shah Abdul Azim al-Hassani, the one who's buried in Tehran today, who there are narrations about him that whoever visits Shah Abdul Azim al-Hassani, it is as if he visited Imam al-Hussein, one of the companions of Imam al-Hadi. Also, someone who was very prominent in the idea of aqaid and solidifying the aqaid of the Shia. Then you also have the more indirect approach. And when did this occur? This occurred after the house arrest of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. When he was then placed under house arrest in Samarra, and Samarra at the time was a military camp. It wasn't a livable place. How many of us have been to Samarra? Samarra, when you go to it, you feel like it's empty land. You feel like there's only the Imam and that's it. There's nothing else to it. Because it was never a city to live in. Samarra was a military camp. And the reason why they put Imam al-Hadi in Samarra is to be as far away from the people as possible. Because if you know, before al-Ma'mun, the Abbasid epicenter was Baghdad. But then al-Ma'mun changed it. And then al-Mutawakkil came and changed it again back to Samarra, which is what? What's Baghdad from Samarra? 2 hours away? So they put him in Samarra because it was the military camp of the entire empire and it was as far away from people as possible. So all the Imam could do is send letters. And very rarely would he get the opportunity to meet with his companions. So he done what his grandfather, Imam as-Sajjad Zayn al-Abidin would do, which is what? Spread his knowledge through the acts of worship. Imam Zayn al-Abidin done this through dua. Imam al-Hadi done this through what? Ziyarat. The things that you say or read when you go to visit the Imams, such as Ziyarat Ashura, whatnot. Imam al-Hadi focused on that aspect. And your prime example is Ziyarat al-Jami' al-Kabira. This ziyarah, when you read it, it has English translation, read it. Analyze it, observe it. All you need to know about the greatness of the Imams and the position of Imamat is in that ziyarah. All the knowledge you need to know. Who they are, how Allah created them, what their position is, what they're going to do on the Day of Judgment, what their capabilities are, what has Allah given them with divine power and divine knowledge. It is all in Ziyarat al-Jami' al-Kabira. So when the Imam wrote this ziyarah, and of course it's a beautiful ziyarah. You need to read this ziyarah. You need to actually listen to the meanings behind this ziyarah. When he wrote the ziyarah, the Abbasids didn't think much of it. They were like, oh, it's a normal, it's like dua, people read. We shouldn't worry about it. It flew under their radar. And it was shared by everyone. And now many people, they have explanations for this ziyarah. It's very focused. And it's a very important ziyarah. And the Imam continued to share his knowledge, to share his wisdom as much as he could until the Abbasids felt like the Imam's time was done. And at that moment, they decided to poison the Imam. And then when he was poisoned, he was killed and he died and was buried in Samarra. And the one who took the helm of Imama after him was his son, Imam Hassan al-Askari, the father of Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala, farajahu al-Sharif. This is just a little glimpse into the life and the roles of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والنصر واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه ومن شيعته ومحبيه وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلاة على محمد.